All right, got good news, got bad news. Bad news, it's the last panel of the day. We're combining the last panel with this panel. We had some flight issues on some privates, and we got everyone up here. We're gonna have Q&A. The good news is, last panel of the day. So I'm just letting you know, we're gonna wind it down. So, and I thought this was cool because, and these guys don't even know it, but a lot of transparency right here and authenticity on the stage. You got Mitch, like I already introduced, Mitch and Rob. They built Meristem. You know, Mitch won Entrepreneur of the Year. Got Barrett and Brian, great entrepreneurs themselves, building a hell of a business with organics. Jordan's working to try and learn from these guys. Cam's young. He's learning, doing a lot of great things with his marketing and ad agency. For you that don't know, I told you we partnered with Cam. Cam's part of our family now. It's Strat Group, marketing, advertising agency. We like what Cam and them bring to the party. And so we're going to try and troubleshoot and look at some things. And then I got my old friend Matt Crisp on the table. I love the fact Matt came back. Matt, we know. We all invested a lot of money. Benson Hill went right in the shitter. And I lost a lot, but I don't think anybody lost as much as Matt. I think Matt lost about 60 mil there at one point, somewhere down the tubes. And Matt said, hell, you could write a book on how to really screw your life up in 30 days and lose 60 million bucks. But Matt's on to some new things, and I've reinvested. And I invested with Matt to begin with in the early rounds. I met his buddy Todd Mockler. Todd told me his vision and Matt's vision, and we were in early. And I just thought Matt was a great human being and a great guy that can build a great team. And I think he can keep doing that. And I think Matt, you guys, we've become friends, family friends. So, I love you and I appreciate it. Pissed that we lost a bunch of money, but hey, you win some, lose some. But I think it's just a great dynamic group. So we're going to be able to hear. And Matt's taken, further than anybody as of late in the ag space to with the big IPO that you had and the way it went down. So, Matt, kick us off. Tell us what's happening. If you can talk about anything that you learned from the past. And before I reinvested, I asked Matt privately, "Hey, Matt, what the hell did you learn from this last go around before?" and so it was good. It's interesting.
It was a long reference check.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, Kevin. Well, I'll just share a couple thoughts. As Kevin as I said just a minute ago, Benson Hill was a rather interesting ride. It's been about 3 years since that wrapped, at least from my tenure. I'm on to some really, really exciting new projects, primarily in the crop input side. So I've built a little bit of a portfolio of very exciting startup companies. iCore, it's a green chemistry fungicide company. I also have co-founded 2 other companies, Quercus, which is using an AI design platform that we licensed from human medicine to design new crop protection products, really leaning heavily into the herbicide space. I think that's an enormous market opportunity that not many folks are doing anything super innovative in. Lilac Agriculture, North Dakota-based, Pulse Inoculant Company, also very excited about that. Edison, which is doing biomaterial production in sunflower leaves, namely rubber. So all ag, very exciting, all bio-based. I'd say, this panel is about building and scaling ag businesses, and I think we've all got some real lumps from the last few years, in the startup community. I know many of you all have as well. What I'm seeing in the space today is a real evolution. I was quoted recently saying, I feel like we need to get small in order to get big again, that the innovation ecosystem, was running full steam with cheap money, some really burgeoning markets that ended up not materializing, like the plant-based protein category. It's really interesting to see these days people talking so much about protein. Sometimes I feel like maybe we were just 5 or 6 years ahead of our time. But when we're building businesses like that, you're trying to penetrate through a channel with a lot of incumbents, and so you're verticalizing a business. It's very capital intensive, obviously not conducive for a high interest rate environment. These days, I'm seeing a lot less money go into the space from an innovation investment perspective, logically, not a lot of exits to really cheer on. But the model that I'm executing with the companies in my portfolio is really one of much leaner, focused, capital efficient, almost virtual in some cases, where we're partnering with various institutions or other startups or even not so small startups that have taken investment and are able to allow us to leverage talent in very, very unique ways. You know, something Kevin mentioned, and I'm very proud of, is I've been able to build some really, really remarkable teams of people over the years, evolve, upgrade teams of people. I'm very, very happy with the leadership in the companies that I work with and advise today. And these are very seasoned folks that we can pick up the phone, and in our networks, and several of you in this room are in that, we can source the kind of intelligence, the market information, the regulatory expertise, the biotech expertise, what have you, formulation, from folks that maybe we don't need to go employ full-time and pay a six-figure salary, but we can engage them on an hourly or a stipend monthly basis. And so we're doing a lot with less, and that's what I mean by I think we've got to get small, lean, focused, capital efficient in order to really allow ourselves to realize some of the exit opportunities, which I do think will sort of bounce off the bottom here, maybe in the back half of this year. I know I said that the back half of last year, but I do feel like the ecosystem will be a little bit more conducive to monetizing some of our investments over the next 12 to 24 months.
There we go. Anything you learned from the Benson? You know, what do you think? I mean, what would you do differently on that? I mean, go to market strategy. What would you have done different with the consumer, with the farmer, with the I don't know.
One of the most common questions I get asked is, would you still have gone public? And I know it's not a popular answer, but I still adamantly think we had to. The private market environment was definitely not going to provide the liquidity we needed in order to verticalize. But one big mistake that I don't talk a lot about, I don't mind sharing here, is that some folks may have forgotten, but when we went public, we had a two-pronged strategy in two different verticals. One of them was in the protein category, so think macronutrition. We were verticalizing with onboarding a couple crush plants in Iowa and Indiana, both of which our friend Walter now owns. And then on the other side of that, we were focused on the produce value chain. So it's a less complicated value chain because you go from grower packer, obviously, to the retailer, to the grocer. But the problem there is, and we bought a business in order to also verticalize in that category. But in retrospect, it was a huge mistake. It turned out to be a massive headache. You know, we lost money on that. It wasn't catastrophic, but it was in the, you know, 8-figure level, $10-20 million ultimately. And the reason why it failed was we just didn't have the killer app. And that's what I think, you know, we had in the protein category. And in retrospect, Kevin, I think, you know, we had something that nobody else had. And I think it'd be more valued even today than it was then. And so I think that degree of focus is something that as we went public, I probably would have wanted to have shed that produce asset and triple down on the soy play.
And keep in mind, everyone, this panel will stay up here and answer. We're going to field questions. So if you have questions and specifics, we'll be fielding them. I know Mace, Todd, and the other group will be running around with Mike. So if you got anything, take down a note, and we'll pop them at the end. Perfect, Matt. I was talking to Cam earlier, and I was asking him something about Rob McClelland, and Cam's like, "Oh yeah, Rob's on my Mount Rushmore of marketing people in ag," and I thought, well, hell, there we go. So, Rob McClelland, what do you think? But how do you think about marketing differently in ag? And tell us a few things, Rob.
Well, I'll do what I can. First of all, congratulations on a great conference. I thought Erica was a big win. Jordan, whoever got Erica here, I thought that was fantastic. Yeah, Rob McClelland, I'm with Meristem and worked with Mitch since '89. Yeah, I got a few thoughts. You know, and it really resonated with a lot of the themes this week, right? Were about your why. I think somebody, Zach, or many people said you got to write it down. And you got to, I think one of the most powerful things in marketing, and I'm a marketing hack, I mean, is deciding what not to do. I mean, there's a lot of great people at things on this panel that are really good at things I'm not good at. So what do you want to be really good at? And I think it's really hard for people starting a business to decide what not to do. It sounds weird, but it's really big. And for all you guys that want to be in here and be number 2 yellow, produce number 2 yellow corn or commodity, once you're really good at production, you got 2 choices. You can either lean into the output market and try to get some brand around, whether that's agritourism or whether that's, I know there's some people here with different businesses that have branded food products and built facilities, but you really have to lean back into the supply chain, and you've got to rip the face off. I'm going to use it. You really, and this is what makes it so hard as a crop input company, professional farmers like you, once you've achieved scale and can conquer mist, margin, interest, transportation, and storage, you have no choice but beat the living hell out of crop input companies. And it's just math, and it hurts, but it's just math. And as you think about that, that's how you gain and you monetize your scale. And then Mitch had a lot of observations, and one of our observations is about 95% of what every farmer uses in this room is after patent. So it's really a sea of ingredients, right? And it gets down to characterization. I mean, if you get 20 crop input companies together, probably we all buy ingredients from almost the same people from different parts of the world. It's the way it is. So you look at that and you say, why in the world would you have started Meristem, Mitch? I mean, what were you thinking? Where was the opportunity? And so, we got to thinking about this market. It's after patent, a lot of ingredients, a lot of parity. When I got out of college, KVT, there was 30 feed companies interviewing for young kids out of The Ohio State University. You go back now, there's not one or two feed companies even interviewing kids. It's because they all went to ingredients and TMRs, and they mix their own rations right at their operation. So I think whoever said this thing about changing and rethinking all through this conference, that's a big one. I think the very way we think about crop inputs is going to change. We know you got to take cost out. So when we kind of got our head around this thing and said, okay, what can we do to bring value to a farmer? I think when you start and scale a business, you have to be absolutely obsessed with your customers winning. And I look around at a lot of the people we compete with, and on their websites and all their publications, they celebrate how great they are. And I hope they keep doing it. I hope they keep talking about their next big hire, pictures of themselves at events. We will never, hopefully, ever talk about ourselves publicly. And that's why I hate being up here so much, frankly. I just trying to get out of it all week. Because we want to celebrate our market and our brand through, especially in a B2B market. B2C markets are different, but in business to business, your business is, I'm a business, how can I help you? The only way I want to talk about this market is through the success of the person that happened to engage with our experience. And I love the word hospitality. We try to do hospitality. I love that word this week. So those are some general thoughts. But then I got really excited about somebody yesterday talking about writing down your why. So Mitch used to hate this. I used to do this at every meeting, and I'd change it for whatever feeling I was in. But I had a guy named Dave Parker and a couple other mentors teach me this little thing. And it's, objective, scope, and advantage. It's a strategic intent statement. I know it sounds a little bit corny, but I hope you guys all go home and do this with some business you want to create. I hope you want to go home and create your own crop input, and we hope we can source you. Hope we can help you do it. So we think different, but here was an example of a strategic intent statement. Everyone's got an objective, a scope, and advantage, and you have to be distinctive, relevant, and consistent. And I love what Erica said about you got to look in the mirror and say, who am I really, and what can I really get done? So let me go to the next slide, Brando. So strategic intent statement, by 2028, we wanted to capture 8% of the U.S. crop input specialty market. This is low use rate stuff. We knew we couldn't conquer storage and shipping against the competitors. We also knew you got to know what game you're in. In crop and input outshot, you're in a zero-sum game. For every dollar you get, somebody loses on the equal opposite side of that dollar most of the time. Now some other people figured out ways to do that and grow the value of the market with carbon and other value adds, awesome. But from a traditional perspective, the crop input market and who's controlled it gets down to about 6 people. And you wake up in the morning, I got to move money from their pocket to my pocket. So where can we win? We knew we couldn't outcondition the opposition on moving big, heavy stuff. We weren't going to go tie up a boat. We hate asset fixity. He's cheap. He and I have had some of our worst fights over spending money on shit. And he's usually right. You never argue with Mitchie math. So we had to get really, really lean and be really, really smart, and we have to use other people's assets, other people's money, and other people's research. I've never seen an industry, and I haven't seen that many, I've always really done Zag, but where if you have 4 years of research from people you trust, the first thing your other person says, I need to look at it too for the next 3 years. Well, shit, in 3 years, I'm going to have something different. It's not even, with the rate of change, I'm thinking, holy shit, how are we going to figure out what the heck to characterize? And this meeting didn't help that fear. So anyway, so that's our intent, but we have to have a business intent, 8 points a share. You know, we're about 4. We scaled pretty fast. I think it's all been about the people. So then you got to say, well, what's the scope of it? Go ahead, you were good. You can just leave it there on the third one, it doesn't matter. Okay, how are you going to do it? Well, we felt like there was more technology than there was market access. Okay, I mean, there's a lot of great technology, there's a lot of great R&D happening, so we thought we could build easy way, and we're kind of a blue-collar, pragmatic kind of deal, get in the truck, how do farmers use stuff, how can it go fast? By creating and securing IP, we wanted to be a delivery system company. We felt like we could license a lot of active ingredients, and we wanted to get laser focused on about 4,000 farms and their people they like. And but the farmer had to be someone that had infrastructure and scale that was at the precipice of backing that integration of their infrastructure into ripping the face off their supply chain where we could have a value proposition. So then, okay, what would be your distinct advantage for that audience? And that goes into advantage. Farmers that use Meristem products will reduce costs of production. We got to do that. And it could be products we make in our own brand or make for others. And gain faster access to innovation. Mitch will talk about this. He ran a big answer plot deal. He loved them. That'll be a little something for you, Mitchie. He hated them. But, you know, when everybody came to us and asked us to look at innovation, you know, we'll put you in the answer plots for 3 years. So we feel like, and again, anybody that's in the current channel, you can beat me up off stage, but we felt like the incumbent distribution multi-step channel probably wasn't accelerating access to market for innovation. So we thought we could play a role in that through our 1.5-step direct model. And then we really said, you know, we got to be better at nutrient use efficiency. We got to build big plants. We got to be able to control pests cheaper. And we got to get more out of the in-season genetic potential of crops. So that was an example of a strategic intent statement. And you'd think that'd be easy to write. You know, it doesn't say, somebody tells me every day we got to build a digital platform. Somebody tells me every day we got to do A, B, C, D. If I listen to everything I have to do tomorrow to stay in business, hell, I don't know what I'd even work on. So deciding what not to do, and I'll wrap this up. I'm rambling on, but that's a strategic. And then I think, and Erica got me all juiced up on this. Go to the next slide. You got to decide what you stand for, and you got to take some risks. So we've got this go naked thing. And, you know, in marketing, 2 things that I've learned a little bit. First of all, most decision-making is made in the subconscious, not in the foreconscious. Just think that over a little bit. So I'm going to beat on my research people. Market research, confirmation bias, city, no offense. Cam, you can beat up on me on that. So most people buy all my competitors like to talk about opportunity. Here's the opportunity. You all can make 3 bushels 10 times on every product. So you could be growing 700 bushel corn. But the most powerful thing in marketing is word of mouth, and it's also having an adversary. So I'm like, who is this Erica, man? She's like I believe in what she's doing. So we have decided the adversary is the current channel. So we have fight back. Winners fight back. You know, how do you fight back? You don't spend the money. Affordability, the guy up here from Iowa, he did a nice job on affordability. We believe in all that. So we think there's 3 big wastes: shipping water. If we don't have to ship water, and it sounds pedestrian, right? That doesn't sound sexy. But man, if you don't, and the guy that said the thing about the tires, I love that. And that Weevil guy I saw with the robot shoving the corn in, that was cool. So we love simple, hey, don't ship water. Hey, if we think there's some big wastes in traditional liquid seed treatment. If you hate me, we just think there's an opportunity there. It hasn't changed much in 30 years. Something's got to be better. And we think there's a lot of opportunity to make fertilizer work harder for you. So, and with biofungicides, with low use rate synthetics, we think we can really restructure how we control disease and pests. So, all that to say, this is our dude. We love him. It's one of our heroes. It's about him. So we say that Josh McClain went naked and set the new Kansas soybean record, you know. And he says, hey, I went naked. I used this stuff, and it helped me. And let's go. And here's how it works. Click that to bring it all into video. So those are some thoughts about how we think about the market, how we think it's scaled. Number one thing to scale business is getting the right people on the bus and paying them really well and take care of your people. And that includes your customer as fans. And I really like that too. I'm going to use fans now. But that's about all I got, KVT.
Hell, I didn't even know you had slides. That was awesome.
Well, you know.
You were trying to get out of this thing all week. Shit, you came through, buddy. No, that was great. And you guys know Rob and Mitch both have farms. Been farming a long time. Rob built a hell of an ad marketing agency. I think about 100 employees at one time, weren't you? Up something like that.
Yeah, it was 120 at the time.
120. So yeah. So I mean, Rob knows what the heck he's doing. Mitch, I saw you shaking your head. You got anything you want to add, or any thoughts on your ideas on expounding on it a little bit?
All right, I'm going to get it right. See, I wasn't supposed to be up here. Rob said everything I was going to say. He did a great job. But, you know, in starting a business, one thing he said that was critical is you got to know where you're going. You've got to have focus. When we started the company, our focus was to go to market like nobody else had ever went to market. Typically, when you launch an ag product, you go to the big distribution companies, and the party starts there, and it works through retail and finds its way to the farm. We said, now you can't rip cost out unless you disrupt the channel. So the part of the channel that we walked away from is 30% of your spend every day on crop inputs. So what we did was, we went around that top 30% and the way we got our pricing advantage was we gave that 30% back to you. That's what, we couldn't make products cheaper than anybody else. We all make them pretty much at the same spots. There wasn't cost to take out, there were discounts to take out. But you couldn't take them out of the whole market. You had to, we were very focused on farmers with their own infrastructure because we don't own any spray equipment. We don't have local agronomists. We had to work with farms that own their own infrastructure because if you own your own infrastructure, we could get you out of that first 30% because you already have capitalized the infrastructure that you're having to pay for again. So we rewarded the farmer who made the investment in infrastructure by rewarding them with a 30% price advantage, which was rewarding them for the infrastructure they built. But we couldn't take that price advantage to the whole market. We could only take it to people that had their own infrastructure, so it was very, very focused. We didn't try and broad stroke it. We said we're gonna go meet 4,000 farms, we're gonna help them save money, and we're gonna work our ass off. That's what we did.
I would agree. And when I looked at the business model, I remember telling Jordan, and I thought it was great for Jordan to learn from a lot of these guys. and a lot of the things that I've learned as well. And a couple of things that Mitch and Rob, I don't even know if they probably explain it different than I do. But when I was in Chicago, being a lot of board meetings, different things, I mean, you have to either decide, are you going to hunt with a rifle or are you going to hunt with a shotgun? All right? Shotgun's expensive. I'm not shitting you. Shotgun's expensive. Rob and Mitch came. They had a list. They had a targeted list. I remember you guys saying, hey, we're going after these 100 people. We're going to get in our trucks. Here's the plan. That's hunting with a rifle. When Jordan goes to trade shows, go ahead.
We couldn't afford airline tickets, so we drove all night long to meet a farmer that was 2 states away because we just had dinner with one at 6. And it was in the middle of COVID, so the lodging was really cheap, and we drove everywhere.
Yeah, competition was down. Shit, everybody was at home, so they were out getting COVID 3 or 4 times and heading out. But no, I remember, and I told Jordan, I said, you know, they're on to the right thing there, and you got to hunt with a rifle. So I told Jordan, he goes to every trade show, and he's out there trying to make, you know, and I say, Jordan, you got to have a plan. When you go to these trade shows, like when you come here, you got to have a plan. So you folks in the audience who've gotten boxes from Jordan and his team, like a custom-built box with your name and the people's name on it and everything, well, we got a plan. I mean, we're coming for you guys. We're coming at you guys. We're going to hunt with a rifle, and we want to get your guys' business. And we got a list, and we want to come get that business. And the number 2 thing Mayor Sim did, they helped other people build. I told you guys this a million times. Had a coach one time. You got a problem to solve. You got to build the tallest building in town. How do you do it? You got 2 ways. Tear everybody else's down. Theirs is rubble. You build a 1-story building, you're the tallest. Help everybody else build their building, and then they all come to help you build yours when it's that time. And I think you guys have done a good job of that. And so is Organics as well up here. And I think, you know, Jordan, I'm trying to teach Jordan those same things. So just remember, identify, can you hunt with a rifle or do you have to hunt with a shotgun? If you're going to hunt with a shotgun, it's expensive. And if your message is long and it takes you, let's say it takes you 30 minutes to explain it to me, I'm probably out because I know right then this is going to be expensive to bring to market because it took you 30 minutes to an hour to explain it, and that's going to cost a shitload of money when we get out in the real world. And so you got to dumb it down for a 3rd grader, and you got to have simplicity, and I think that's what these people have been successful. I'm just watching it, and it's the same play, just different people running the same play. So, you know, Barrett, kind of give us your thoughts. I know Barrett and Brian are in a big EO groups all over the country, and they're friends with some guys that have built some amazing businesses, not only in ag but other businesses, and you know, and it's all kind of the same. It's all the same. It's just different parts and you know, different people, different types of things. But what do you think, Barrett, with your guys' success, the culture you've built, and the importance of all that? Take it away.
Yeah, so I think you know, I think there's a lot of things that make make business people successful at what they do. If I had to think of the one thing that was the biggest unlocking move for me and for our journey and our mission at Organics, it comes down to the word flow. And flow is one of our core values. So at Organics, we have a set of core values: gratitude, flow, love, creator mindset, win-win. That's our core values. So I do think it's important to have core values and to truly live by them, not just put them on your wall. And in fact, I will tell you that if the people that work for you can't recite their core values when you ask for them, then you don't really have core values. You just got some things on a wall. At our company, if we got a new employee, I ask them what their core values are on a whim. They don't know when it's going to happen. When I do ask them, though, if they answer it, I give them $20. If they don't answer it, then we talk about it and how they're going to better answer me next time so they can get their $20. But it's amazing how that gets everybody remembering real quick, the core values. But when you think about that one core value, flow, that we added that core value, you know, in the last couple years because it was a massive unlocking move once we discovered flow. And if you think about flow, so Kevin or anybody in the audience, I don't know if you ever were out in the ocean. I have a house in the Keys, Florida Keys. My wife and I and our family, we go out on a boat and fish a lot. And we always see dolphins, you know, like porpoises jumping out of the water and, you know, Flipper kind of, you know, remember the TV show Flipper? I don't know if you ever had that experience driving out in the ocean and all of a sudden you see a dolphin. But when you see a dolphin, you do not have a choice. And I don't care if you saw one 2 days ago because you're fishing every day because it's Christmas. You know, we literally went out in the water every day. We saw a dolphin on Tuesday. We saw another dolphin on Friday. Both times the exact same thing happened. We stopped the boat. We're going 30 miles an hour. We see the dolphin. We stop the boat. We all sit and look at the dolphin. I look at the dolphin. My granddaughter looks at the dolphin. My wife looks at the dolphin. And we keep looking at the dolphin until the dolphin disappears. You can't help yourself. You have to look at that dolphin. Why are we so attracted to dolphins? Well, I believe the reason we're so attracted to dolphins is because dolphins are more evolved than we are at being in flow. Think about it. What's a dolphin do? They swim around in ocean currents. They swim with the current. They rarely swim against the current. The current brings them their food. It takes them to their destination. And their only job, really, from what I can see, is to joyfully play while they do their work in the flow. So to me, that's a metaphor for kind of how we should be at our work. Doesn't mean it's always easy. I'm sure dolphins have bad days. We just don't see it. But when they can joyfully play in work, they're in flow, and we're highly attracted to that as humans, to see people in flow. So as leaders, if we can actually operate at a state of flow more than we don't, then people are going to stop and look at us. They're going to talk to us. They're going to want to join us in our flow. Now, if you think about flow, keeping in my water analogy, think about like a stream, right? Streams, you can visualize that water kind of babbling down the over top of the rocks, and the stream's moving along. Now, I want you to visualize dropping a rock in that stream. Splash. Drop another rock in that stream. Splash. What's happening? All of a sudden, the stream's getting all turbulent. It's going into eddies. It's not flowing so well anymore. You drop enough rocks in that stream's going to dam up. And eventually, that flow is going to be a trickle just coming out through the cracks in the rocks. And it's just going to become still water. There's no flow anymore because you dropped too many rocks in that flow. So in our company, we'll use that term. Hey, are you dropping rocks in the flow? Every time you focus on what you're against, not what you're for. So let me say that another way because it's how we say it in the company. Focus on what you're for, not what you're against. And that's how you increase flow. That's how you are more attracted to being in that state of flow. Focus on what you're for, not what you're against. We say it multiple times a day. Now, I still drop rocks, right? But I tell my team, if you see me dropping rocks, focus on what I'm against, I want you to bring it up to me because I want to pause and I want to reframe my thinking. And I'm going to do the same for you. So as a team, if we can all focus on that, we can stay in a state of flow a lot more often. And what's really cool is if you can state a compelling vision that doesn't have to do with serving yourself, but has to do with serving your customers, serving the world, serving something bigger than you and your company, and just stacking up, it's not about stacking up money. It's about making something happen, solving problems that have never been solved before, making the world a better place by making products better, cheaper, safer, more convenient, somehow adding value in a way nobody's ever done before. Creating that compelling vision of your company, being really clear what that compelling vision is. At Organics, we want to revolutionize the way the world grows. We want to be a partner to the farmer in helping to drive soil health and give them all the benefits that associate with that, and celebrate the farmer as the action hero to feeding the planet and cleaning the planet. If we can just be a small piece of that and help the farmer do that better, that's a pretty cool, compelling vision. So we keep talking about that compelling vision over and over again. Focus on what we're for, not what we're against. Don't drop rocks in the flow. What we found happens is you start to attract others to your flow. When you're really clear about it and you operate in this flow, when you joyfully play and work at the same time, then what happens is other people want to be in that flow with you. Just like you can't stop looking at dolphins, people want to join you in your flow. Not everybody, but people that are aligned to that compelling vision. And so when you get more and more people join you in that flow, and it turns into a bigger flow because you have more people putting energy into the same direction. So now you've got a common vision, a common alignment, and we're all rowing in the same direction because we know clearly what it is because we've got our compelling vision. We're in flow. We're focused on what we're for, not what we're against. We get more and more people to join us. The flow gets bigger. It goes from a stream to a river because you got more people in there. You get more people in there, it goes from a river, maybe you can get it to an ocean current. And if you think about it, you can stop a stream pretty quickly with a few rocks. It's a lot harder to stop a river, but you can still dam it up. But you turn it into an ocean current, you can't stop it. And then things start to just happen. Almost, they feel like automatic and effortless. I promise you this can happen. I started this company 15 years ago, and I will tell you that I spent 10 years trying to push a rock up a hill. Through sheer will, determination, and work, I was going to win, and I was going to make this work. And it was hard a lot of days. And then I turned it around. I said, no, I'm just going to focus on what I'm for, not what I'm against, create that compelling vision, and bring others into my flow, and they'll help me make it happen in a way that I could have never done on my own. And as soon as I started doing that, it became, I'm not saying every day's effortless. There's still hard days. There's still challenges. But a lot more effortless than pushing a rock up a hill, and a lot more fun. And that goes to the other piece. I had a mentor of mine say to me, a CEO only does 3 things. Sets the vision. You heard me talk about the vision just now in our purpose statement, revolutionize the way the world grows. Create really good core values that become the operating system of the company and operate by those core values. You heard me talk about those: gratitude, flow, love, creator mindset, win-win. Make sure everybody knows them, make sure everybody operates on them, make sure you coach, hire, fire, make major decisions, all through the lens of those core values. And then go build a badass team that's all aligned in the common direction and working hard towards a common vision. How do you attract that badass team, especially when you're a startup and you're not like, maybe you don't have the best, benefits package. You don't have we don't have much PTO because we got a lot to do and not a lot of people. So, like, how do you attract those really great people that you could never afford? You could never go just, get a headhunter to go get them. They just have to come to you. They just have to show up in your life, and then you got to get them excited. And well, you do that by showing up in flow. You show up in flow, people want to join your mission. And I'll tell you, just in the last couple years since we started thinking about flow, Richard Branson, from Virgin Group, he joined our company on our cap table and as an advisor, and has spent days with us, doing strategic advisory work for free because he loves our flow. Howard Buffett is another advisor and somebody that's on our cap table. This is, Warren Buffett's offspring. And he's showed up to help us on our mission. He doesn't need to work. He doesn't need to, I couldn't hire that guy. He wants to help us because he was attracted to our compelling vision and wants to join our flow. When you get people like that to join the flow with you, stuff just starts happening, and then you just got to keep up. And all we get to do is joyfully play and work our asses off, but that's part of the fun while we move along towards that compelling vision. And here's one more thing I just want to kind of wrap that idea of flow up with is, we want to have a goal, and we want to set a destination. We want to, hey, we're going to do this by this date, this many dollars in revenue, this many customers, and we set that plan and that strategic objective, as we were just hearing from Rob over here, and or Mitch. One of them said that from Meristem. And but don't get so hung up on the destination. Like, we got to hit this many sales by this date, and if it doesn't happen, then then we'll have to lay off people. If it doesn't happen, all these bad things are going to happen. Well, if you get so focused on that deadline, and you don't just trust that it's going to happen at exactly the rate it's supposed to happen, then you start to focus a lot on what you're against. All the things you fear, all the things that give you anxiety and stress, they start showing up. And then what happens is it gets harder and harder and harder to reach that destination. The more you focus on it, the more determined you are to get there by a specific date, the more you're actually going to repel that end game. This has been my experience, and I've done that a lot. When you set your compelling vision, and you still set a goal and an objective deadline, but it's not a deadline. It's I'd like to make this happen by this date. And then you work hard towards it. I'm not saying sit Indian style and just hum and say I'm in flow, I don't need to do anything. No, you set your goal and you work your ass off towards that goal, and you trust that every moment between here and there is perfect. You trust that we're going to get there at exactly the speed that we need to get there. And what I have found is once you let go of the timeline, it happens faster than you ever thought it was going to happen. It's just amazing. And when you focus on the timeline, it's the most important thing. It's always harder and harder to get there. It's always a little later than you think. It's always a little harder than you think. And this idea of flow has absolutely changed me as a leader. It's absolutely changed this company. Last year, we grew by 300%. The year before that, we grew by 200%. When I was focused on pushing a rock up a hill, we were thrilled when we grew by 20%, which is still spectacular. But it was a lot harder to grow by 20% than it was to grow by 200% when I was in flow. And it's a lot more fun. And I can't believe the people that are joining our mission and wanting to be in the flow with us. The quality of customers that are coming to us, and they want to help us. People like Kevin Van Trump wants to come to, he wants to help us. People, like I said, Richard Branson wants to come to us and wants to help us. When I went, and I'm just going to close on this one last thought. When I went to meet Richard Branson for the first time, we're going to spend a half a day planning with him on Necker Island in the Virgin Islands. We're sitting there waiting for Richard to show up. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I got my notebook. I got my paper. I'm going to be a really good student. And he doesn't show up at 9 o'clock. And Oh, we're eating breakfast, just waiting, looking at the sunshine, but we're ready. He's going to show up at 10 o'clock. He shows up at like 10:45. And I'm like, well, I was really anxious the whole time. And when he comes in, he literally has a button-up shirt with one button on the button. Everything else is just kind of flowing. Board shorts that are wet, hair's all messed up and flowing, big smile on his face. And he says, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't get to you early today. But when the wind is right, I always have to start my day off on a kiteboard, surfing across the water. He says, then I can be really fresh and we can do much better work together, even if it's not as much time. So thank you for allowing me to do that. I looked at Brian, who was with me on Necker that day, and excuse my French here, I'm just going to say what I said. I said, Brian, this dude's a motherfucking dolphin. And think about it. If you look at what Richard Branson does, he has 200 companies, all operate under the Virgin brand, and he lives in the Necker Islands and doesn't really do much. He works for 4 hours a day from a hammock, and I mean, don't get me wrong, he has to go travel around and do things, but 6 months of the year, he sits in a hammock and writes down ideas and just operates in flow. And he's the first businessman to put himself into space. I mean, he's done some pretty cool stuff. So think about that. I know that might sound like I'm coming from California with crystals with some of that stuff, but I'm just telling you, it's real experience, and it changed my life. And this message was given to me by my mom in a dream, which is so bizarre. Now you really think I'm from California with crystals. But I want to give her credit. She died 7 years before she gave me that message. But once she gave me that message, it absolutely changed me as a human being and as a businessman. I hope some people in this room can gather that concept and do a little bit more joyfully play while they work and flow and attract a bunch of other people, work on a common vision, make the world a better place by solving problems nobody's ever solved before, making products better, cheaper, safer, more convenient, somehow adding value by solving problems. That's what we get to do as entrepreneurs. I think it's the coolest job ever. I think it's the most noble profession, and every farmer is an entrepreneur that should be celebrated. I don't think farmers always think they're entrepreneurs, but as I see them, they're some of the greatest entrepreneurs. So that's...
Perfect, Barrett. So, Barrett, I got a couple of things for Barrett. Barrett's getting all in this Zen craziness, but I'll give you some real life one too. So I'm down in Memphis. Andy had me down. He has this big group of investor guys coming, and he wanted me to come talk to and speak. And there's all these just, really rich people, and, it's wine and cheese and all the jazz. And Michelle's there with me, and I said, I got to go down and check out this room before I talk to these people, just see what's going on. It's early in the morning. I go down this room. I got on shirts cut off sleeve, and some of you folks here are seeing it. I got tattoos, I got everything out, and I'm down in this room. These people from the hotel come in, and Michelle's like, what are you doing back out? And they're escorting me out. And I said, hey, these people are kicking me out of the hotel. They thought I was a homeless person. I'm not lying. In this fancy hotel Andy had us in, and I'm like, I just went with it. And I'm sitting outside, and they got a security person there. And Andy comes in, he's like, what the hell's going on? I said, I don't know, they kicked me out. I thought I was homeless, man. And Andy's like, get him in here. That's my guest speaker guy. That's our guy we're supposed to be having talk. So listen, now the kids always thought I was nuts. But so when I was young, I was reading all these books, Entrepreneur Mag. I was going to read all this shit on sale and all this. Oh, be a chameleon. Be a chameleon. Oh, be a chameleon. I read all that. You got to be a chameleon with all your people. I get to Chicago, and I am struggling. And I'm Barrett. I'm pushing rocks up hills like you've never seen. I didn't do anything. I'm working for this one company after that, and I'm doing sales for this place. And, man, I'm watching this one guy. He's just home run after home run. This guy, I'm not lying to you, this guy was flying to work in a helicopter. He had a GED. He's just nailing it now. And I told Michelle, I said, this is ridiculous. And the guy, I talked to the guy a few more times. Another guy just hitting home runs. And they both said, what are you doing? I said, I don't know, I'm trying to be a chameleon. They're like, that's the dumbest advice I've ever heard in my life. They're like, why would you do that? And I said, well, that's what I read in all these sales books. And they're like, no, do not do that. Here's what you do. You go out there and you be yourself. And I don't give a shit what that is, but you be yourself. And then you just go run like a rhino through the jungle. And you will attract people that want to be with you. But you be yourself, because if you're not yourself and you're a chameleon, you're going to be doing all kinds of shit you don't want to do, You're going to be miserable. They're going to have you in a suit. You're going to be doing, and then you're going to hate your job. And then you're not going to be very good at your job. And then you're not going to find the people that like you. And, you know, it was hard for Michelle in real estate when she took, I said, you got to fire that client. Just get rid of that client. But she was trying to please everybody and make everybody happy. And in the end, she wasn't happy. So when you find out, like Barrett's saying, when you're in the flow of things, you're not a chameleon. You're yourself, and you're able to just to go and do the things that you do well and that you do good. And it's okay that some people don't like you. That's fine. I mean, you got to be thick-skinned, and that's okay. And we never sell against other people's. You know, if somebody picked to go with XYZ, we always say, hey, that's a great choice. Those are good folks. We add commonality and say, but we also have some people that used to be with XYZ, and now they're over here with us. But you don't want to insult people's choices. You don't want to insult other people, you know, what they pick to go do. So we don't sell against people in any of our businesses. And you know, and we try not to be chameleons. Be authentic, be true. But one thing I call Barrett, because I like to hear some of that Zen crap throughout the year, you know, so I'll call Barrett every now and then. And I said to Barrett, I said, God dang, what do we got to pay? Remember this conversation? I don't know if you remember it, Barrett. It was this year. And I said, what the hell am I going to have to pay to get this guy? Barrett went on kind of some Zen, and he's like, man, dude, let me tell you this, what Brian told me. What Brian told me on bringing a few people. Tell him, Barrett, what you told me. Do you remember that? When you said there's some people, you know, you can't pay them enough money. Just go for it. Remember when you're like, that's what Brian, because they were hiring a bunch of new people, and you tell them, Barrett.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I recall the context we were talking about is, you know, if you bring in the right people, it doesn't matter what you pay them, because if they create a significant amount of value, if they're the right people on the right mission, they'll create so much value for you that whatever you pay them is irrelevant.
I about choked on the phone when he said that, obviously, because I'm like, now, Barrett, whoa. And you said the same, though, because you were tight with your budget.
Yeah, I can't afford them at $100,000. I can't afford them at $1 million. So, hey, if they can produce $10 million, I got no problem paying them $1 million. If they don't, then, well, it's not going to last very long because we only have a few bucks to pay them. But if they can come in and get aligned and actually create massive value, 10 million, 100 million, $1 billion, who cares if you're paying them $1 million or $2 million? It really doesn't make a difference. And don't get me wrong, I'm using just generic numbers here to just illustrate a point. I'm not saying we can just throw around $1 million or $2 million and just pay somebody that. But what I'm just trying to illustrate that to put it into context. And I will tell you that, you know, we hired some really, really good executives that I couldn't afford. And that's really what Kevin's talking about. And Brian said to me, he says, you got a chance to hire Mahomes. You figure out how to hire Mahomes. You don't sit there and nickel and dime them. You figure out how to pay them, and then you get them on there and you win the Super Bowl, unless they're playing the Philadelphia Eagles, which I'm from Philadelphia. And honest to God, if you remember that game that Kansas was supposed to win, they should have won, but they were not in flow. They 100% were not in flow. And the Philadelphia Eagles, they were in flow. They weren't the winners of that game on paper, but they were the winners by far in everything they did that year, and they showed up as a team in flow. But he says you got a chance to hire Mahomes, you hire Mahomes, doesn't matter what you pay him. Mahomes is going to create so much value that it's going to be irrelevant what we pay him. And we got these two people we want to hire, and I know for sure, I've worked with them in past lives, they will create more value than you pay them. Just bring them in and set them free, and good things will happen. And I'm like, all right. And point blank, I'll tell you a point right now, Tim Dever and Austin Hausman, I think they're probably in this room. They were the two smartest people I ever hired and have created so much value in our company that it has exceeded my wildest dreams. Those are the lowest paid people in my entire company based on value creation and value paid. So I think that's what we were talking about there.
Sure, that is. Brian, do you have some things you can expand on and the flow and all the hiring things? You've been there, you've seen the thing, so yeah.
So, full disclosure, that was my sales pitch, right? So I went to Barrett and said, there's some people on this planet you cannot overpay. You can't overpay them because they'll always exceed it in value. And he says, the only reason I'm doing this is because I trust you, because I think it's crazy. And I'm like, well, and he did honor it. A year later, he's like, it's the best decision we ever made. I can't imagine not having done that, but probably on your own, you would never would have done it, right? So you do have to have some faith, and I think Barrett had this dream with his mom, and he called me in the morning, and he said, Brian, I got to share something with you because I don't know what to do with it, and he explained flow to me for the first time. And I don't want to get woo-woo, but I'm more woo-woo than he is, so I said, it all makes sense now. That's exactly what we've been missing, is the ability to trust and have faith. And that's all that, and if you really boil flow down, and this is a really hard concept to grasp, and if anybody in this room hears what we're saying, it'll change your life, and it's hard to do, but the reality is the universe does have your back. If you're on the right energy flow, if you're doing your purpose on this planet. So Bear and I happen to have the blessing of knowing Simon Sinek before Simon was Simon. Like, no, Simon was not making a living, and he's the one that came up with the why. So when everybody says, what's your why? That's a gentleman named Simon Sinek. And having your purpose in this planet and knowing what you're supposed to do is really important. Barrett knows his purpose, and he's got a very clear vision as to how he's supposed to change this world. And when he explained flow, I said, I know I'm in the same place with you, and we're supposed to do this together. And it has changed everything, for sure. And the world does want you to be successful. And when you're focused on making others great and living in flow and joy, you will attract only good, I can assure you. But part of the gift, and I just want to, and Barrett qualified this a couple times, the reality is everything that you're given is a gift. And that can be really hard to understand some days, because it may look like a bag of shit, but it is a gift, because God wouldn't have given it to you if it wasn't there to challenge and make you grow. But if you can see it as a gift, it becomes one. If you can't see it as a gift and you bitch and moan about it, then guess what? You're now against the flow and you're upstream. So for me, the single biggest thing that I would recommend to any person or any business is take a pause, make sure you are doing what you're supposed to do. I would tell you, for the most part, in my experience, having been on 1,000 farms in white pickup trucks and driving around like Mitch knows it takes to do, most of the farmers I meet are where they're supposed to be. They know they're supposed to be helping the soil. They know they're supposed to be doing what they're doing. Sometimes they lose sight of it, but if you know that that's what you're supposed to do, just focus on what you want, and I will tell you, good things will happen. So again, that's about as deep as I'll go for you on that, but I do believe it.
I appreciate that. So, and I would agree, and that's kind of that Erica stock, meet people where they're at, and they're out there in the flow, and they're where they want to be, and you guys are going to, and bringing to them what they want, and it all makes sense why you guys are successful and doing what you're doing, and easy messaging. Jordan, tell us a little bit about your trials and tribulations as of late, like having to build a team, going from zero to, where you guys are at, and
Yeah, for
how big
sure.
a headache it's been.
Appreciate everyone coming, support my family, being out here, sticking around. Also, background, I put this whole panel together. I hope you guys are taking great notes. These guys, I picked these guys, great friends of mine, but also they built their companies from nothing, from dirt. And I think that's really important. A lot of people can relate. And I also have a lot of respect for them. And I believe Ag Swag wouldn't be where it is today without them. They teach me a lot. And I don't think it's accident Ag Swag is where it is today, because I've learned from these guys. And not just because and just for background, very first customer, Matt Crisp. Second customer, Brad Ursek and his daughter, Katie. Third customer, a good friend of mine, Jay Felton. And fourth customer, Mitch and Rob. It's crazy. They've stuck through it all through me. But it's been great. Cam, you're new to the party. Bright Skies, I'm open. But I don't think it's accident, because these are my mentors. These are the guys I get a lot of ideas from. I learned a lot of things from them. First thing I'd like to say differently is we've hit on this topic all day, but figure out who you are. And to this point, this will be year 5 for Ag Swag. I think most of the journey, including my sister as well, we've been trying to figure out who we are as people, who we are as a company. And I think we finally figured that out, and we're starting to build a team. We're starting to attract people that move towards the same goal as us. We're starting to attract customers that want to do the same things we're doing. So I do think one of the biggest takeaways on what we do differently than a lot of people is we know who we are. and that's what we do. Another takeaways from yesterday, a lot of people can relate, being owner. I thought that was a great thing. And then also, I think this is one of the best times to reinvent yourself in this new AI era. A lot of things are changing, a lot of opportunity. So with that, I'd move into my next point of execution. I would encourage everybody to think about this whole discussion this whole week, and write 3 things down that you want to execute from this show and do it. And that's another big thing that we do differently at AgSwag is we execute. I mean, our biggest thing is execution. We do what we say we're going to do. And I don't know why, but it's tough for people. It is tough. It is definitely tough to do. But if I had one piece of advice for everyone out there, it's just do what you say you're going to do. And a lot of, we've been building the business and things have been going really well for us. And I get asked all the time, hey, how the hell are you blowing this hat business up? You're selling hats, bro, and you're doing $20 million. It's like, Jesus. I'm like, honestly, the best advice I got is just do what you say you're going to do and treat people right. And we've found a way as well. I told my dad this not too long ago, but I'm like, when orders go bad, it almost plays in our favor, because I almost like orders going bad because I have figured out a way to spin it to make it good and turn those people into lifelong clients, because I treat them right and do right by them and do what I say I was going to do. But so the bad orders, I think that's a great idea. Also, you guys are probably listening out there like, what's this hat guy going to tell me, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we're farmer, seed, all these things. I'm in a commoditized business as well. I mean, I'm sure all you people out there know 600 different people you can get your hats from. I mean, it's not a hard business, I guess, and the entry level is super easy. You know, from the lawn space, I mean, we're just like lawn. I mean, anybody can get a lawnmower, and anybody can get a screen printer, anybody can get a thing to embroider their hats. But I guess what we are doing differently is we have now pivoted our business into more of a marketing company. So yes, we make the swag, we sell the swag, we print the swag, but we are cultivating ideas. We are helping people with their image. We are helping people create experiences. I mean, just like the hat bars we've been doing, we're now getting into live branding. The boxes I've given some of these folks. We've a few like in-house things we've done different is we're now running a hybrid model with our printing, which seems kind of odd, but it's really a great sweet spot that nobody's doing in the printing industry. But we have the ability now to sub things out that we don't want to deal with, but also we can control the whole supply chain. So we can print it, fulfill it all the way through, or if we feel we don't need to, we don't have to. And that allows us to continue to be creative. And what I've seen a lot of people being tripped up on is they get focused on the manufacturing, the printing, the operational sides of the business, and that really drags them down. Another thing I've seen done is fulfillment. We are now starting to fulfill things in-house. I think we all have these issues. You guys are having fulfillment issues, and I know you guys are having fulfillment issues as well. And I think you guys have learned the fulfillment. You're doing it yourself just because there's kind of 2 ways fulfillment goes in my business. It's they do it themselves and they don't do it very well, or they completely sub it out to a third party and they have no control and it's done very, very poorly. But we are starting to do things in-house, build our own systems. I'm assuming you guys are building your own systems, all trial by error. But that's gaining us a lot of business. The last thing I would like to say that we do differently, and I think the corporate people can learn a lot about this. Family businesses can learn a lot about this. People wanting to get into family businesses can learn about this. But building a brand's great. But it's about doing it. It's about doing it with my family. My mom, my wife. I'll end with that. About being with you, Dad.
Yeah. He ain't slept in a while, guys.
Oh,
Hey, man, don't forget Henry.
yeah.
They brought the baby over to the hotel. Jordan's like, I ain't
It's
slept a
about
bit.
Henry,
And I'm
yeah.
like, dude, you're going down.
Yeah, it's about falling up, getting down together, figuring it out. But and I think that's where I relate with a lot of my customers, and we understand each other. So, and I don't think big corporations are going to have that, and that continues to help us build our moat. So.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree with all of it. And, I told him when he got out of college, well, he had a few different job offers. And I told you guys the story. I said I had a buddy that ran, he was a CEO. I told you guys to pay less. And then his buddy, they were with Jack Welch, and they were big-time CEOs. And my one buddy, Dave Krumholtz, came back here and ran American Identity. And I said, what the hell's a big-time CEO like you running American Identity? I said, what the hell, isn't that just like a tchotchke company? Don't they just sell like shirts and hats and shit? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, they brought me in to dress up the executive team, and they're going to try and have an exit. In 2007, they sold it for $8 billion to Staples. And I said, Jesus. He parachuted out of there with millions. And I said, Dave, who the hell were your biggest clients? He said, John Deere, ADM, Cargill. I said, well, shit, those are my guys. I know those guys. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, if you ever want to get into business, that hat business. So when Jordan got out of college, I said, well, if you want to try and be an entrepreneur, I said, try something with this hat business, because I'm sitting there in my head thinking, shit, this can't cost me too much money. I mean, he's going to go out and maybe try and sell a few hats. He ain't going to like it. He's going to go off and do something else, right? No, he went nuts with it, and I told him the biggest part's going to be your ego. I mean, you went to school for all years, and his sister's big-time architect, and he got her to come back. It's hard to tell people you're selling hats or you're doing hats and T-shirts, but, I think, if you get over the hump, and we've had a lot of things, a lot of trial. Hell, we're fighting and screaming at the house. We have arguments all the time on different things they want to do with the business and different ways they see it. And, like he's saying, our motto is, turn the losers into winners, man. If you can turn losers into winners, you got something going. So I told Jordan, when you screw up, you make a mistake, your sister makes a mistake, your team makes a mistake, call the people as quick as you can, tell them you screwed up. Tell them, be honest with them, and tell them you're going to make it up to them, and you're going to make it right. And so he generally comes back over the top and sends them twice as much, or sends them a bunch of extra stuff. And, and we do. We're just trying to learn too, and the kids are trying to learn, and I think they've built one hell of a team. I'll probably have Kennedy up here next year, because Jordan and I are very good at building a team. Matt Crisp is good at building a team. All these guys up here are good at building a team. I'll be honest with you, except Jordan and I. I'll be serious. And it's kind of a running joke. We've always said we're kind of more like Jason Bourne. We like go in just one-man operation. And we'd probably be a good number 2, 3 maybe on someone's team. Probably not the CEO, I just watch Mitch, and I always got a smile, and Barrett's got a smile, and Matt's got me, and they're happy, and they're meeting people and cheering them on. And, Jordan and I really aren't that way. We want everybody to work as hard as we're working. We're pissed if they're not. And it just ain't the right mindset to be that leader. It really isn't. I'm being honest. And I tell everyone that. I said, I tell Jordan, I said, don't learn from me. Watch what I did. I did it not right. I was just hard work, tried to kick everyone's ass, and I wanted everybody to work as hard as me. And if they didn't, I was pissed, and I'd fire them. And you could ask them. We had a bunch of automotive repair shops going one time. I think I fired maybe 95 or 100 people in one year. And the accountants finally said, shit, this got to stop. You got to calm down, man. We're just rifling through payroll, back and forth. And we probably never even had 50 people workforce total. So think about that. I mean, it's just a revolving door. And I could not get my head around these kids, and couldn't take constructive criticism, sitting out crying every 5 minutes, and a lot of boo-hooing. And I'm like, are you shitting me? If you think this is hard, we ain't even got hard yet. Like, fire him. But you can't build a team that way. So I'm telling you, and my daughter will say, Dad, you're nuts. You lost your mind. We cannot do that. And I know the people at Ag Swag, have heard plenty of blow-ups, and it's always my daughter saying, hey, Dad, that Van Trump's coming out in Jordan again. He got to go in the other room or get him outside. He's yelling in here. So I know that his sister is a key part of the success in keeping the team and building the team, and they've really hired some great people and some great young folks, and so I'm super proud. So no question, I'm proud of both of them, what they've done. And I'm telling him to watch other people and watch what and all these folks up here, just great. I see them being great CEO-type team leaders that build good teams, and that's what it takes. That is really what it takes. So I love it. Cam, let's close up here. I mean, we're going to open up for questions and all that, Jeff. Cam, like I said, he's the kind of the resident professor at right now on the advertising and marketing thing. Tell us what you're seeing, Cam, and what a lot of ag businesses are doing that you see making mistakes, or individual farms that are trying to build brands, and what do you think that could help them? So go ahead.
Absolutely. So before I jumped into some of the do's and don'ts, I just got to give a lot of credit to the Van Trump family. I mean, you can hear it in Jordan's voice. You can see how they show up, how they run this event. It's passion. They're passionate. They're not doing this for fun. They want to win. They want to see you win. And that's how much they care to them. They've all been awesome partners and very grateful to have a seat at the table. I think when people start to talk about marketing and ag, unless you're like me and it's native to you, you kind of say, yeah, I don't know, marketing, ag. That is not helping us anymore. It's not helping you. It's not helping the industry, and it's probably not helping your customers. I loved earlier Erica talking about they don't care about your brand, right? What do people buy? Why are they buying anything? They're buying to fulfill their hopes. They're buying to fulfill their aspirations. They're not just buying a product from you. They're buying a product that they think is going to increase the longevity of their farm so it can go to their kids and their grandkids and the next generation after that. So if you're focused on the technical benefits of your product, if you're deep in the weeds on this or that, you're probably missing the mark. Get to know the person, understand the value and the impact that you can have on their life, whether that's their bottom line, whether that's their well-being, their mindset, and be unapologetic about driving that value for your customers and your members. So a couple of things that we see that folks mess up a lot. If your marketing is out into the market without a direct tie to your distribution, you might as well light your money on fire. Everybody says, oh, I did all this marketing and it didn't work. Okay, what were you driving them to? Who were the salespeople on the other end of that? Was there an actual clear value proposition, or was it you patting yourself on the back, telling you how great your own brand is, right? So you got to make sure that your marketing is integrated with your sales and distribution. That's one of the number one things that we see folks get wrong. The inverse of that is, hey, let's listen to our customers. Let's know them so well that we can actually consult with them, that I can teach them something new, that I can bring them something interesting. Why are you all here? To learn something new, to find something interesting. If you can start to get really, really honed in and good at doing that for your customers, being a native guide that brings them new profitability, new business opportunities, new models, they're going to be your best friend. Doesn't matter what you're selling, because you wake up, you think about their business and their relationships are more valuable because they know you, because you wake up and you think about that. Another one we see a lot, especially in ag, you got to work with people who know the industry. And we talk to a lot of people. Oh, yeah, I used to do some marketing. Okay, yeah, who'd you work with? Oh, some folks in Chicago. Okay, did they know ag? Nope. How'd it go? Terrible. You know, the folks in this room know ag. Absolutely. So, if your niece or nephew's close to you and good at marketing and knows farming, great. Let's give them a shot. At the same time, working with generalist firms who've never stepped foot on a field or, touched any cattle, it's not going to fly for you. A couple other quick thoughts here for you. At the end of it, marketing is just getting credit for what you do well. I know you all are damn proud of all the work you do every day. You wouldn't get up and put your boots on and do it if you didn't believe in it. Why don't you want credit for that? That's probably my biggest beef with the ag industry is, for the most part, y'all are too damn modest. We need to be out here getting credit. You're wonderful stewards of the land. You wake up and serve and feed this country, and you have for 250 years. So it's frustrating to me when I talk to consumers and other folks about ag, and they have this warped view of what's going on or how it's going. And I hate to say it, but some of that's our fault. we've got to stand up. We've got to tell those stories, whether that's locally or regionally, and in a few cases, maybe nationally, because I am confident that you are all not getting the credit for the great work that you're doing. And whether it's folks in DC or folks in California or anywhere else in between, this industry needs to get credit for that. So I've been pushing this. If you're one of my clients, I'm sorry, because I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing this from me, but ag really needs to go on offense. You heard Rob talk about it. We're going to fight back, right? We're going to stand up and know who we are. That's because these companies are leaders who do this really well. So we should all take a page out of their book and go on offense for ourselves. Now, what that means for you might be different, right? What offense for Jordan looks a little different than it might be for me or Rob or Mitch or any of these guys. But what does going on offense look like for you in your business? And are you actually getting credit for the great work that you do from your customers, from your community, and from the folks at large? Loved all the comments around staying lean. Look, if you're not focused on farmer profitability or your businesses or your clients' profitability, either driving the number up on the top line or reducing it at the in-between and driving that bottom line up, you're probably not going to be doing what you're doing for that long. And that's, Erica talked about it earlier. Marketers love marketing for themselves. Oh, look at my pretty graphics. Look at my, Throw all that out the door. What is the real impact, ideally monetarily, that you are driving for your customers and your members? Because if you're really doing what you say you are, they're never going to get rid of you. So those are some of the things that we see works best. Obviously, all the other stuff we heard, be authentic, be yourself, but don't be afraid to go on offense, and please, please, please start telling more of your own story.
Yeah, true. We're going to start opening up for questions. The guys with the mics. You can ask anything you want. It doesn't have to be just relevant to this. You can go however you want to do it. I got one kind of even for Rob and Mitch, I guess. Like Throttle Hopper and Planter Box thing. I mean, I thought it was just a cool-ass name, right? And we've had been with Kimball Musk and those guys and different. And you know, Musk never spent a dime marketing at Tesla, really. I don't think they've spent any. Because they call it some, I don't know what it is, crazy marketing. Because he puts all the weird stuff in the car, like ludicrous speed, and you know, some of the seats make fart noises, and you can program them in to do that. And there's all kinds of weird things that they put in, and they get people buzzing about it and telling everybody about it. So you know, where'd the Throttle Hopper? Did you just come up with that on your own? Or how'd you guys do it? Did you outsource it, or?
It's, Mitch, when he had the idea to start Meristem, he got a new liver, and it was a miracle. So I'll start there just a little bit because he won't talk about it probably. But, and he got God to somehow bring him a second shot, and so, he got pretty good at playing from the bottom, he thought he was going to be dead. And so we're going along, I'm in Missouri driving around, and I pull in this guy, O-Funk's G guy. I sold seed with Mitch too. He goes, hey, seed, talcum graphite or fluency could be a carrier system for any number of microbes or active ingredients. I'm like, no, it's not, it's a controlled spill. That can't be true. Fast forward, we had a really bad day. We got a product, a PGR we really liked we didn't get access to it. Some Saturday, I said, Mitch, what the hell are we going to do? And go ahead, I'll flip it to you on that one. What are we going to do to be able to get the products we think help farmers to the market? We EPA, we didn't have enough money to register products. I didn't have any money. So we had some, we've always built a network. Mitch has always been a guy that, one way or another, if we get a little behind on suppliers, it just tears him up. He can't sleep at night. He always wants to make sure everybody. He can be a real son of a bitch too, but deep down, if he owes you money, or kills him. So he had a lot of good network, and there was a biological, a bug that ate a lot of methane. There are these pink ones, act a lot, a great biostimulant. And we think, what, that molecule looks a lot like some stuff we like to help plants grow and farmers want to buy. But we also wanted a lot of zinc, and if you put the two together, they died. So Evan said, what if we separated them to the last possible minute and got it in the soil and got some smart people to look at it? And that's how the design patent on the biocapsule was born. I mean, what did I miss, Mitchell? Okay.
No, the biocapsule was really born out of necessity. We wanted to bring gram-negative biological products to market, but every time we tried to mix a gram-negative with a traditional product, the biological died. So it's like, wow, there's this great innovation, but if you put it through a seed treater, it's gonna die. If you put it in a liquid starter tank, it's gonna die. And what we figured out was you couldn't let it touch anything until the point of application. And it was like putting wheels on a suitcase. We were just sitting around one day and thought, what we need is like an ink cartridge printer that can dose these biologicals in without ever being exposed in the environment until it's time to put them in the ground. That solved, as simple as it sounds, nobody had done it yet. It was so simple. It's putting wheels on a suitcase. All we did was develop a delivery system that protected the delivery of biologicals. And when you get biologicals to the ground alive and not dead, you take a lot of cost out of farming.
But you guys also did a hell of a job marketing it. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like the marketing, the throttle hopper and the name, and then
Hopper throttle.
Hopper throttle. Okay, hopper throttle. But I see. I don't even know what I'm talking about. But I knew I was close. And then in the naked beans, same type of thing. I'm just saying, same type of marketing like you see with Tesla. It's just kind of a little bit off. You know what I'm saying? A little different.
There's KVT.
We started the company with, Rob said I had a little bad luck. I had liver cancer and I was just about dead, and my next door neighbor called me one morning and she said, my nephew just died, and I said, I'm sorry. She goes, if it's a match, you can have his liver. I didn't have 3 months to live, and it was a Mexican kid I'd never even met down on the Mexican-Arizona border, and I called the University of Minnesota, and I said, hey, there's this dead guy down in Arizona, and his dad says I can have his liver. I don't know who it is, but he's in this hospital. Call this hospital. Got it put together, long story short, flew a medical team that morning down to Arizona, cut out Ignacio Chavez's liver, and at 6 o'clock that night, they put it in me, and my life expectancy went from 3 weeks to a month to 30 years. So I was 49 years old, recovering from alcoholism, had a new liver, Mexican liver, all alone. My wife had left me because I was a drunk. When she left me, she took all my money. And then this doctor tells me I got 30 more years to live and I'm unemployed. And I'm like, this is the worst news I've ever got. I got kids to take care of. I had really good life insurance. And now you're telling me I'm going to live 30 more years? This ain't good. So I got a chance to lay on my back for 4 weeks. And I guess the punchline to being an entrepreneur is this. I was amazed that God saved my life. And then I just asked, what can I do to give back? And the only thing I know, being a farm boy from Indiana, is farming. And had a pretty extensive career in some high-level executive positions in agriculture. I saw a lot of waste, and I decided right there on my back that instead of making money off farmers, which I'd been doing my whole life, and farming, but I was gonna go help farmers. I was gonna quit selling products, and I was going to take what little I knew about the supply chain, and I was going to go to farmers, and I was going to take cost out of production. And that's how we started it. We got our first $100 million of revenue selling adjuvants, foliars, PGRs, nitrogen stabilizers. We didn't manufacture one of them. We bought them the same place everybody else does, but we didn't we changed the distribution model, kind of like an Amazon, and it opened up the opportunity to go to farmers and save them a lot of money without ever putting them at risk of buying a bad product. It's the same product they're already using. We just put a different brand on it. And the other thing that I knew was innovation was slow to get adopted. I mean, you got a handful of companies making a lot of money off traditional products. It's very hard. It'd be like you being told tomorrow, air's going to feed all the livestock and we don't need your corn and soybeans anymore. That'd be a bad day. Well, when somebody comes to the market and says, I got a product that tells you don't need as much fertilizer and chemicals, do you think the guys selling the fertilizer and chemicals are going to tell you about that product? No. So I knew where the products were. I knew what innovation could be unleashed into agriculture that wasn't being taken up by the incumbents. Just called the companies and said, hey, you got innovation here. If we can keep it alive, we can save farmers a lot of money and do a lot of good for the environment. I started the company with $150,000 and never went to the bank. We're well over $100 million company 6 years later. Very profitable company, have saved farmers millions of dollars in input costs through better efficiency and new technology delivery. And the reason I believed it worked was it was never about the money. It was, I'm supposed to be dead and I'm here on borrowed time. And if I'm here, I got to do something good. And the only thing I knew what to do was to go try and help farmers. So I wrote a check for 150 grand, and all I did was try and save farmers money, and it worked out.
For sure, yeah. Great story, too. Great story on Mitch. I was going to pose that question to the kind of the panel. You can think about why the question's being asked. If you had 100 grand, what would you start in ag? What kind of business would you start in ag? It couldn't be your own either. You can't just say, I'll just start my own. But I don't know. I mean, we'll think about it. Any questions out here? We got questions.
If I had $100,000,
yeah, if you had 100 grand, what would you try to start? Just to give people some ideas.
I'm telling you, there's a company coming to the United States in the soybean business, and they're going to change the way you buy soybeans. And I think soybean seed conditioners on the farm are going to become a really big deal in the next 2 years. I'm personally wondering how I can get in the middle of that myself.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, yeah, I can see that. You got a question, Todd? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about, I think Mitch touched on it some, I think Cam touched on it some. Farmers are really doing a lot of great stuff for this country, right? Farmers Feed America. First of all, what can the farmer do to better advocate for themselves to make sure that story is getting told? But then what can these farmer support groups do? So Mitch, you've talked about how Meristem's cutting costs out. That's helping farmers. I would love to hear from the rest of the panel if there's any other ideas you all have on what farmer supporting companies can do to uplift the farmer, and then maybe what individual farmers themselves can do to better advocate for themselves to make sure that they're getting the credit that's due, and they're really getting everything that's due to them.
Yeah, great question, and happy to jump in here. I think there's a lot of commercial opportunities to tell your story, right? I think video is an awesome way to do that. Social media is a great way to do that. Hosting local events in your community is a great way of doing that, being a strong community member. But the one thing that I would advocate that this group does, my business partner is Mace Thornton and spent 35 years inside the Beltway fighting on behalf of farmers through American Farm Bureau and the United Soybean Board. We have to be involved in policy and advocacy work. Someone else is going to be in there sharing their voice. Somebody's going to be in there willing their mindset, whether that's in DC or California. You all have to make sure your voices are heard, whether it's your local representative, whether it's how you vote with your dollar. There's a bunch of ways we can do it, but sitting on your hands or sitting on the sidelines, it's not going to help any of us.
Yeah, I'll tell you something that happened to us recently. It was an illustration of us working with farmers to help promote themselves as, the superheroes to feeding the planet and cleaning the planet. we went to Climate Week, which is where all the chief sustainability officers gather in New York City and talk about how they're going to, clean up things and have new policy. And we're there to try to find people to buy carbon credits for our farmers, who we help them create those carbon credits. And these are well-intentioned, good people, but they are completely clueless as to what you all do every day to help make sure that your farms are able to be passed down to the next generation, to go out there and produce the food that you do. And they have, frankly, distorted references on what you do. And, a 10,000-acre farmer is an evil industrial mechanism. They don't see it as a family farm. And they're wrong, obviously. So in order to change that narrative, we went to Climate Week this week, and we talked about we're going to have this big booth. We're going to have this all this razzle-dazzle and these walls and these living walls in our booth. It's going to be all these things that attract these sustainability people to us. And we said, no, that's not right. Our vision was we need to be the conduit that allows the farmer and the chief sustainability officer to get in an elevator together at Climate Week in the hotel, ride up the elevator, and while they're in that elevator, help that chief sustainability officer understand that what they want is exactly what the farmer wants, and that they're all working on the same mission, and that in fact these farmers are the ones that can help this chief sustainability officer get exactly what they want, and help them, basically learn the truth of what you all do. So that became our vision. So we brought farmers to Climate Week. Instead of spending money on razzle dazzle, we just created a space where we could have meetings and invite these people and these chief sustainability people and sit with our farmers and just have conversations. And it was unbelievable how leaned in they were, how engaged they were, the chief sustainability people, to really learn and I get to touch a real farmer? I mean, they didn't say it like that, but that's kind of how they were acting. At one dinner, we had Richard Branson came into the dinner, and he wanted to meet our farmers, and the farmers told their story. And Richard was very engaged, and he said, I got to go. I got a presentation I have to do at the other side of the hotel, and it was for this Planetary Guardians group, which are like presidents of countries and CEOs of, you name it. And they're all in there to talk about how they're going to make better decisions to make the planet better. And Richard's up there presenting to this Planetary Guardians group, and he realizes, as he's presenting, that everything that these people want, our farmers down the hall where we're having a meeting can deliver. Mid-presentation, again, this guy's a motherfucking dolphin. Mid-presentation, he walks off the stage, in fact, runs off the stage, runs into a glass door because he thought it was open, falls down, stands up, bleeding, coming down his face, okay? His assistant's rubbing his face, says, no, don't worry about that, I got to go get the farmer. Runs down the hallway, top speed, and we're in the Virgin Hotel, of course, and he bursts into our meeting, grabs our farmer by the collar and says, come on. And it was Brian Moorfeld, who's like 6'4" and 260 pounds, and Richard's like 160 pounds. And he's grabbing Brian Moorfeld and pushing him down the hallway. Brian has no idea where he's going. This is Brian Moorfeld, the farmer, not this Brian down here. But this Brian down here was there too. I said, and I'm sitting there running this little meeting, and I said, Brian, you got to go follow our farmer, because I have no idea where Richard's taking him, but he may need some backup. And he takes him down to this meeting, and meet them. Everybody in this meeting, who are like presidents of countries, are sitting there waiting, where did Richard go? Richard comes in, blood streaming down his face still, and he gets up, and he basically introduces our farmer and says, tell him your story. Tell him how you're reducing your inputs. Tell him how you're driving organic matter. Tell him how much carbon you've sequestered. Tell him about your town and how you bought the local restaurant because the restaurant was going out of business, and without the restaurant, we were afraid there wouldn't be a town. Tell him how you support everybody in the town. Tell him. And so our customer, our farmer, Brian Moorfeld, he's just all shucks. I mean, he's got his Iowa baseball cap on. He's got sneakers, jeans, and a T-shirt. And he's in there talking to these presidents of countries, and he just all shucks tells his story. He doesn't even know who he's talking to. They were so leaned in. We spent $1 million on Razzle Dazzle booth. We wouldn't have gotten the impact we got from just bringing a farmer in to tell his story authentically to these people. And you couldn't have created a better social media moment. I mean, if we would have tried to design a social media moment and got the Kardashians in the room and say, how do we do this? Everybody in the entire climate week for the next 4 days, Richard had to go do 3 presentations a day with a scar on his face. Every day he gets up and says, oh, let me tell you about this company. I really believe in it. In fact, I'm bleeding for this company. And let me tell you about this farmer. It went all through the social media stuff. It went all through the event. People were coming up to us. Oh, I heard about you with Richard, blah, blah, blah. This all happened because we just got farmers in the room and got them to tell their authentic story of people who didn't understand. And once they did understand, they got real excited. So you have a lot more power and a lot more impact than you all know. You just haven't really told the story enough times to the right people. I'm sure you all have told the story plenty of times, but there's audiences that haven't heard it, and we've got to figure out how to get you access to it. Anytime you have an opportunity to talk to new people, especially people that don't necessarily see it your way, please talk to them and tell them your story. Once they understand, I think you'll change a lot of minds.
Yeah, and that was in the news, world news. I think Richard Branson got all beat up. It was embarrassed to the farmers up there, so too funny. Anybody got anything else? Any questions? Hey, we're shy tonight. Anybody?
I'll ask one to
Yeah.
my crew up here that I ask for advice always. As you go to scale with your business and continue to scale your business, I'm learning this myself, and I guess I'm looking for tips and tricks that you guys have learned along the way. How important, I guess, are processes? How important is the onboarding process? How important is like that first 2 weeks of training? You guys up here, some of you guys have built businesses over 100 people. You're on your way to 200 people. So I'm trying to get to that point. But I guess what are some tips and tricks you guys got on that front?
I don't know if there's any tips and tricks. I'll tell you, it's a difficult thing as an entrepreneur when you have people start talking to you about systems and processes. I mean, but the one thing I will say is I've found as I've worked with, going on a dozen companies over the last 20-some years, that there's almost this law of tripling. I stole that from somebody, and I can't remember who to attribute it to, but you start out with yourself, and then you get 3 people, and then maybe that's your founding group, and you triple that, you get to about 10 people, and this is kind of a point at which not maybe everybody in the entire company knows everything. When you get to about 30 people, that's also an inflection, like where now you've got a culture established and you're not driving individually necessarily the entire culture. And then when you get to about 100 people, the systems and processes really come to another inflection point. And so that's not any tip or trick, but it's an observation that I've had that irrespective of the industry that startups are on, as they do scale and oftentimes can move, even inside of a year from, say, that 10 to 50 plus person point, those are really, really interesting, consistent inflection points in how you have to treat employees, the team members, how people share information, disseminate information, and ultimately implement a lot of these things that actually do scale your business.
I'll lean in on one thing. I mean, I'm the operations guy. Everybody knows it. That's a joke. I think the big thing is when you get to the point is hire the right people and pay them what you need to. Do what you love and then hire the right talent. I think that's really key.
And Jordan, don't try and become the process onboarding specialist. That's not who you are. Onboard that talent to do it for you. Because if you get sucked into that, you're going to lose all your juice.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we hired 60 people this year, and I had a really good group of people. We hired a talent manager specifically just to find those people, vet those people, and then run them through a very in-depth process with other people in the company to make sure they're the right people with the right core values, the right culture fit, the right job fit. Once they got, and I didn't even know these people, they got hired without me ever meeting them. They didn't start work, though, without ever meeting me. Every single one, 60 people that we hired this year, no matter how busy I was, every one of them, I spent 90 minutes with, make sure they understood, what we were all about, what our mission was, what our values were, and make sure I knew who they were. So when I saw them in the hallway, it wasn't some stranger. But I tried to make sure I connected every single one before they started. And if there was any red flags, then I'd go back to my team and I'd be like, hey, did you check this out? And I was usually wrong because they were really good at hiring people. I think we made one bad hire out of 60, which is pretty damn good. And I'll tell you, when you said congratulations on one thing I heard you say, which is we're not in the apparel business. We decided we're not in the apparel business. That's a commodity. We're in the marketing business. We're here to help our customers, celebrate who they are. That's what Jordan said earlier today. And so as you do onboard people, I would say, if you want to find people that are good in the apparel business, that's great. But make sure they know you're not in the apparel business, because the apparel is just the mechanism that you use to help your customers celebrate who they are. And what you really are is an organization that celebrates, very specific people, celebrates, businesses in the ag community, however you define that, and make sure they understand that mission, make sure they understand that role, and then make sure they understand what the values are of what it means to be a Van Trump, because not everybody fits into those values. They're very specific values. I think I could, but I'm not sure everybody could.
Yeah,
Very good advice.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess to build on that, I go to all these conferences outside ag and things like that. One of the common things I've heard is encouraging young people like me to find a mentor. I mean, I've been blessed. I got my dad as a mentor, all these people up here as a mentor. For you guys up here, I guess explain how important it's been to you to have a mentor. I mean, and encourage some of these younger people in the crowd to get one.
I'd just offer one point here. I've found that surrounding yourself with advisors early, often, is, it's gold. It's gold. But most important that I've found is that finding somebody who has failed. There's a lot of authors of success. There's a lot of people who want to tell you about their best investment, about their best startup, about their best achievement, their milestone, their whatever. Finding people who are willing to be vulnerable and talk to you about how they really screwed up is worth 10 times as much as hearing 15 people tell you, here's how I did this well and this. Because advisors for businesses, and I don't, I agree with the comment made, farmers are entrepreneurs, and I hope you all would agree with this too. It's mostly about finding folks who help keep you out of the ditch. The most successful situations that I've ever ended up having seen myself through with the help of people I love and trust, they've guided me not around what to do, but around what not to do and to stay out of the ditch. And so I can't emphasize enough that learning, being blessed to have people tell you about their failures is a massively valuable gift.
Jordan, if I can jump in, I think the single greatest thing that we've ever done as a business, and it was back in 2019, and it was create a relatively informal board of advisors. I think we've got 4 or 5 of them here in the room: Jay Vrew, Mary Kay, Russ Green, and a few others. But absolutely they're willing to take you under their wing, coach you, give back, point you in the right direction, make networking, but then also, hey, don't do that, don't step on that. And then the other piece is, if you get close with your clients, they can be great mentors too. Jordan, you said it earlier, you've learned from all these guys just the same. Rob and Mitch have been wonderful mentors of ours, a couple other clients in the room just the same. So, but if you don't, whether you're a small business or it takes little to no effort to stand up a board of advisors. It's 5 handshakes and a lot of gratitude.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when it comes to mentors, it's kind of poignant to me. One of my biggest mentors is a guy named Don McCullough. Don founded Nutrisystem, of all things. If you remember that, I'm talking about the original Nutrisystem. It's gone through 4 different versions of Nutrisystem since Don was there. He was Forbes 400 at one point in 1994, with 400 wealthiest people in America. And he agreed to be my mentor. And formally, I asked him, could you be my mentor? Would you meet me once a month? Could I run business ideas through you? And so one thing is, I had the guts to ask this guy, and I asked him because I knew he was a big shot billionaire, and he was in my area. He didn't know me, I didn't know him. I called him cold, and he was, sure, I'd be your mentor. So first of all, you'd be amazed if you ask people for help, how they'll actually say yes, even if you think they're unapproachable. And I'm mentioning Don specifically because he taught me a lot. He taught me how to think bigger. He taught me about vision. He taught me how to, all these things I've talked to you about today about, vision, values, team. Don McCullough died 3 days ago, and he helped me start Organics, and he helped me through some real tough times in my business career. And the fact you're asking about mentors, and his obituary actually got published today in the newspaper. So I woke up this morning, the first thing I read was Don McCullough's obituary. I knew he died, but I actually saw the obituary today. So it's okay. He was time for him. I mean, he was an old man, and he'd done a lot of great things, but it's pretty interesting that you said that today. And the other piece is I've got an uncle who is absolutely my entrepreneurial coach in life ever since I was a kid. Always told me to be an entrepreneur. He took 7 companies public. He has 34 patents and created the world's heart stent and the first publicly traded sperm bank. So he saved lots of lives and created lots of lives. And my uncle, I haven't really talked much to my uncle in the last 3 years. I got to bring him to FARMCON. He just left. I wish he was here because he could hear me saying this right now, but he's been one of my biggest mentors, and I got to bring him to FARMCON this year to see what we've done as a company because he hasn't really kept up with it. He's 87 years old, so he's not as active as he used to be, but he was a big mentor of mine, and I got to celebrate with him today and yesterday, so it was really cool to do that.
Go ahead, Mace.
Yeah, Kyle Mayman. I'm a Northeast Iowa farmer. Had the pleasure to meet many of you on stage different times and have a lot of respect for everybody up there and have really, really enjoyed this session. But with the last couple of days being having a lot of emphasis around AI, I'd like to just ask you guys as a whole. You don't all have to answer, but all those that are willing. I'm going to give you the prompt. First off, you have to think like a Northeast Iowa farmer, about 47, about this tall. I'm just curious to think about as you're building and scaling businesses and how you've done it, and with the background and prompt of thinking that you're a farmer in Northeast Iowa, what do you see as some of the biggest accelerants to what do we have to be sure that we're doing, and what are accelerants that are going to take our businesses to the next level, and then also what do you see just as the roadblocks, and maybe just help me with understanding what that looks like from your perspective with your farmer hat on.
Thank you. I'll take a shot with Kyle. I know Kyle pretty well. Thanks for the question. I think one thing, knowing you and what you're trying to get done a little bit, if there's a way you can lean into the crop output side, you're probably operational excellence. You know a lot about the supply chain. Where can you create the most value for your family? Is there a way to build a brand around your family and use that to accentuate your ability to attract the best absentee landowners to be with you? I think when I talk to farmers, at the end of the day, it always gets down to hopes, dreams, and aspirations of how do I keep ground and how do I not lose the ground that I'm on and how do I get more? That's kind of every meaningful conversation seems to end in that discussion, regardless, they don't. And I think when I think about your operation and getting credit for what you're doing right, building a brand around that. It's not a consumer brand necessarily, but it's a brand about how you do things, the value that you bring to soil and your community, and build a story around that is authentic, that you can share with some key audiences. And I'd make a list of the communities of people that are really important to your future. And I think one of them is going to be absentee landowners. We just lost 9,000 acres of ground on one track in Ohio to solar. So I'm kind of on this urban sprawl thing. What do we do about it? And then I'm listening to the guys yesterday, or 10 years from now or less, China will be a net food importer, and we're not going to be the lowest cost producer. So I've been all messed up over that, Kyle. So, thinking about that, so if we can't be the lowest cost producer, can we be the best at doing it? Some of the things the organics guys are doing, and then monetizing that through the story you append to your operation so you can be the best at having an absentee landowner that maybe saying, I'm gonna rent this ground to Kyle. Yeah, maybe it isn't the highest, but he's his brand, his people, the way he's doing it, who I want to farm this ground. That's one idea. I mean, I've been thinking about a lot the last couple days being here with folks I know. I don't know if that's helpful, but anybody else?
Yeah, I think I'd just build on that. I mean, I think uniquely, we've been talking about landlords lately, and I will say as a whole, guys, your reaction to your landlords is pretty interesting to me because it's like, oh, they suck. Like, by and large, a lot of you guys have like this, well, I don't want to poke the bear. I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to ruffle their feathers. Like, it's just, if your business goal is to grow your business, and that's going to be through the vehicle of acquiring more land, how do you be the most differentiated brand in your market? How do you build soil, bring value, differentiate yourself, impact your community, everything that he just said? I mean, if you were the most attractive farmer to ever rent ground to, what would that look like? And how could you become that? How would you tell that story? So I do think there's an interesting opportunity to understand your customer. The reality is, as of right now, and I heard some really interesting things, I hope that Carter gets his way, and I hope things happen to where the quality of your output is differentiated and you get a premium because of the great work you do. But in the short term, you sell a commodity. So unfortunately, you're not really going to control the price you can sell your product for. So the one thing that you're trying to do if you're scaling the business, at least simplistically, is you need to be bigger. Like if you had more ground so you could create a bigger business, that's your opportunity. And that means you need to be really, really, really attractive to your customer who's your landlord. That's who it is. And so how do you show up differently, communicate differently, deliver value to them in ways they've never thought about? And you talk about the absentee landlord, absolutely. But a lot of you guys deal with just an older, farmer that's down the road that doesn't farm anymore. It's like, is there something you can do different to stand out in the crowd? I don't know. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation, and I think all of you guys could challenge yourselves on your why, what's important to you, and the impact you're bringing to your landlords, and could that message actually resonate to help you grow your business?
I'll give you one, because I've talked to Jordan about this when he was talking about, if you're going to rent farm ground, and if you're renting ground, you got to look at it like any other business. What's your customer acquisition cost? So your customer is the absentee landowner. So you have a customer acquisition cost. What is it going to cost you to get that guy to rent you the ground? You start thinking hard about it, and if it were me and I'm going out renting ground, I'm taking my wife and my grandkid, and I might even take my daughter and my son, and I'm going there. And I'm going to let them meet my wife and my grandkids. I'm going to let them meet my family, and I'm going to tell them how important it is to my family. And I'm going to send them a newsletter every month, and I'm going to show them what I'm doing, and I'm going to have them out there when I'm taking core samples. And I'm going to invite them to come out and see, and I'm going to invite them to come go do a little hunting with me. And I'm going to send them a newsletter every month telling them, hey, we switched to this type of meristem product. We're using this organics now, and here's why, and here's the reasons. That's part of your customer retention plan. So when I'm going to invest in a business, I got to ask them first out of the gates, what's your customer acquisition cost? Shit, they don't know, I'm not investing. Okay, it's $40 a person, it's $200 a person, it's $2,000 a person. I don't know, it could be anywhere. But then what's your customer retention rate? Like I told you, I was buddies with the CEO at Sprint one time. Shit, they could bring all the customers in you could think of, shake a stick at. They couldn't keep a one. Their customer retention was horrible. So you got to think, what do I got to do to get new customers? How much is that going to cost me? And then what do I got to do to keep the customers? And so when they're talking land renters and you guys are wanting to rent ground, you got to think like a business owner. I got to get the new ones. How am I going to get them? Do I need to send them a cutting board personalized with their wife's name? What do I need to do to get that client and that absentee landowner? And then how can I keep them better than the competition? And whatever you got to be doing better than the competition. So if other guys are sending newsletters, you better be sending newsletters and smoke signals. You better be doing a lot of things. So that's what I'm saying. You got to beat them, and I think that's the key. And you got to think like a business owner, and that's the whole enchilada there. So yeah.
To add to that, I think to sum it all up, you just got to continue to innovate. I heard it from 10, 15 people this week on the AgSwag side. Like, gosh dang, when do you guys stop? Like, it's something new every time I see you. But that's what we do. We innovate. We continue to innovate, just like my dad said with the newsletter. Well, if if everyone's sending newsletters, well, you got to innovate again and keep innovating. And I'll bat it over to Barrett, but it's crazy how much their business has innovated the last, 5, 6 years? Hell, you were doing grass, and now you're giving farmers checks for carbon. Like, you're not even, like, in the same ballpark.
Yeah, and just to be clear, doing grass meant that we were serving the turf industry, golf courses, lawn care companies, sports turf. But maybe I did a little grass. But so we moved from my background is turf grass. I'm not an ag guy historically. I grew up, my first job ever was working for ChemLawn, spraying lawns. So that's my background. That's where I came from. So when we started looking at microbes and soil health, I got really passionate about that because I'd used a lot of chemical fertilizers, and I saw the challenges with the lawn care industry around chemical fertilizers and runoff into our waterways and such. And that drove me down the world of soil health and microbes. But yeah, we had to pause. And you talk about strategy is what I think Rob said strategy is, think about what you don't do. So yeah, we had to pause and say, because the turf industry was fine, and we still have customers in turf industry. It's a nice business for us. We're not walking away from it. Love my turf customers. It's in my blood. It's not scaling our business. It's not creating massive value. Agriculture is. But in order to move into agriculture, we had to change how we thought about our business. I would have told you in the beginning that we were helping turfgrass customers. We were in the turfgrass business. We were in the soil turfgrass business. I might have said some version of that. But then we backed up and said, no, we want to revolutionize the way the world grows. It doesn't matter what it is. And now let's look, where can we add the most value in revolutionizing the way the world grows with the strategies that we have? And it isn't probably turfgrass, because it just needs to be pretty and green. It doesn't need to produce. There's not a P&L involved. If I save the golf course manager money, he doesn't really pay that much attention to it. It's not even his money. And so it allows us to look at agriculture, bigger TAM, but a business owner that's intimately involved with their P&L, and we can show them at the end of the year, did we win or lose? And it changed our entire business, but we had to back up and say, we're not a turf grass guy. I'm not just a guy doing grass. I'm a guy that wants to revolutionize the way the world grows. Now fill in the blank, where can we add the most value? So that was a question we asked, and it drove us to the strategy. And we stopped. I went from 7 people in turfgrass selling it to now we have none. We just serve. We answer the phone and take care of the people. But we have 45 people selling to farmers. So it's a much different focus of what we're doing and not doing. So we've also, as we've looked at revolutionize the way the world grows, and we want to be a partner to our farmers in soil health. We're not a microbial input company. That's another mistake we made early on. We had this great microbial consortium where I said, hey. The first FARMCON I ever came to, I would have introduced myself as somebody who was in the microbial input business or we had specialty inputs. I might have said it like that, which is wrong. That's not what we do. That's the mechanism that drives what we do. No different than you're not in the hat business. We have a great set of microbial consortiums that can help you, but that's the mechanism. The mission is we want to be a partner to help farmers drive soil health, to make sure that they can not just survive but thrive by helping them on the top of the top and the bottom of the numerator, produce more, use less, find other ways to generate revenue. Once we figured that out, it offered different innovations that we needed to then apply to the business. So we're not just selling microbes now. We just 3 days ago, we launched a total data platform. We do a lot of soil testing to help our farmers understand what they're doing, but also to help them monetize their carbon credits. And then we got all this data. Well, shit, we got all this data. Let's put it into a portal. Let's create a big portal tool that our customers can use and access to see what their soil health is doing. Frankly, we use that to resell, that we're actually adding value, but we also give it to farmers to help them make better decisions, because they can see over the last 3 years, here's the thing that's happened in these areas in this field. We give them that for free. We have to do it anyway if you're going to try to monetize the carbon. So we spent millions of dollars developing this tool that has nothing to do with microbes and an input. If I would have said I was a microbe input company, I never would have developed a web portal. We never would have gotten into the carbon markets. We just would have tried to get really good at making microbes. And we're good at making microbes, but that's just one piece of the mechanism. The bigger mission allows us to then think about other innovations.
Cool. Let's do one more and call it a day.
You guys are obviously successful. I was wondering if you got, tell us how you select boards, board governance, type of board members, how do you reward them, your expectation of board members on your businesses?
Yeah, I can jump in first. So I will say there's kind of two different types of boards. What I'm talking about is a board of advisors, very informal compared to a board of directors, which has a specific fiduciary responsibility. Most of ours started with some really candid conversations about who we are, what we were trying to do. But then the first thing I always do is, what can I do to help your business? What can I do to help you? And we start by giving away our time and our talents, not because we don't think they're worth something, but because I want them to understand and know the impact that we can make. I also don't want this to be a one-way relationship where I take, and they give. So usually what we try to do out the gate is, what can we do to help your business? We'll give you a free project, we'll give you free time, we'll make connections, whatever that needs to be, to start putting chips on their side and say, hey, here's what we're doing for you, here's what you're doing for you. What I can say about our mentors and advisors is half the time they make it too easy on me, and they're more than willing to just give back and support, and we're beyond grateful for that. But where we can, I want that to be a revolving door, that they know when they pick up the phone and Cam's calling that we're going to talk about something that helps advance their business or their life.
Yeah, so we have a board of directors. We raised equity dollars, so it was sort of a requirement to have a board of directors. But to think about the people that I wanted on that board is I wanted them to be balanced. I didn't want a bunch of people that thought the same way. I wanted people that would offer different points of view. And I also wanted to make sure that my board, so when I did form the board, I had them all read the same book, and some of them had read it before, but it gave us context to talk about, which is The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Pat Lencioni. And it talks about having the best way to get the best idea is to have different points of view. Argue them out aggressively, have healthy discontent of ideas, and then build consensus. And if we have a bunch of people thinking all the same way, then there's no healthy tension. You don't have that discontent, and you don't build the best ideas. You end up building lopsided ideas that are distorted and maybe add more risk. So that book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, if you're going to, I would say do it for your board, do it for any team you're putting together. It really illustrates how to, bring this diversity of cognition. We talk about DEI, and it's all like DEI is like, oh, it's a bad word now. And I think because it got perverted, it was all about, I need DEI, I need people of this color, this color, this color, this color. Like, these look like the Skittles when I open up a Skittles box. DEI is really valuable, though. They just lost focus of what it really was. It wasn't about the color of your skin. DEI is about having diversity of cognition, diversity of thinking. And when you have a team that thinks different ways, you get better ideas. The original thesis was if we got people from different backgrounds, an Indian, African American, a Caucasian, they have different cognition because they have different cultures that they grew up in. That's where that started. And then it just got it to be like a color thing, and nobody knows why the hell we were doing it. It doesn't have to be a different color. It just has to be different thinking. But if you get teams together that have that different thinking and you encourage different ideas, fight them out, and then get consensus at the end, you'll build better ideas.
And I would say one thing. Yeah, don't get a bunch of your friends or like-minded people on there. And that's the problem in ag. We all end up in an echo chamber because we all like the same stuff. Like to hunt, fish, like country, you like all the same thing. You're just all thinking the same way. That's why I thought it was great on a few of these panels. Some people from aerospace, some were from telecom, some were from whatever, but now we're in that, and so you got to get people from different areas, like Barrett's saying. I think that's the whole key. People that aren't going to, because it's all about perspective, right? It's about seeing around corners. And if you get everybody the same, you're all looking at things the same way. You need people that are over there and they're weird as hell, and you think they're weird, but they might see something you don't see. So I think that's the whole key to the boards and the advisories. So, hey, that's a wrap. I sure the heck appreciate everyone being out here. Man, everybody, it's been great turnout, great crowd. I think the rain may have broke a little bit, maybe, until we can get the heck out of here. Until next year, guys. Appreciate it. Love all of you guys. Love your support. Family loves you. Appreciate everyone. Thanks. See you next time. Thank you.